Maya Rodriguez stood outside the towering glass building of Sterling Technologies with exactly $47 in her bank account and a decision that would either save her future or destroy what little remained of it. The rain had been falling for 3 hours, soaking through her only professional blazer, but she refused to move from her position near the executive entrance. Security had already approached her twice, asking her to leave. She had politely declined both times. What Maya was about to do had never been attempted in the 15-year history of Sterling Technologies. She wasn't scheduled for an interview. There was no job posting she was responding to. In fact, the company hadn't hired anyone new in 8 months due to budget constraints that were pushing them toward potential bankruptcy. Maya knew all of this because she had spent the last 72 hours researching every financial report, every news article, and every public statement made by the company's CEO, Jonathan Sterling. But Maya had discovered something in her research that even the business journalists had missed. Something that connected her story to Jonathan Sterling's in a way that would prove impossible to ignore. What she didn't know was that in exactly 17 minutes, Jonathan Sterling would emerge from that building facing the biggest crisis of his professional career. And Maya's presence there, at that exact moment, would trigger a sequence of events that neither of them could have anticipated. The decision Maya was about to make would violate every piece of career advice she had ever received. It would break the most fundamental rules of professional networking. And somehow, against all logic and probability, it would work. But the real story isn't about landing a job. The real story is about what happened when two people from completely different worlds recognized something essential in each other that would change not just their lives, but the lives of hundreds of others they had never met. This is that story. Before we start this incredible story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our viewers around the world. 6 months before Maya Rodriguez found herself standing in the rain outside Sterling Technologies, she was graduating summa cum laude from Washington State University with a degree in computer science and a GPA that should have guaranteed her multiple job offers. She had spent 4 years maintaining a 3.9 average while working 25 hours a week at a campus coffee shop to pay for textbooks and rent. Her professors consistently praised her innovative approach to complex programming challenges. Her senior project had earned recognition from the university's engineering department. Maya had every reason to believe that landing a job in Seattle's thriving tech scene would be straightforward. She had submitted her resume to 43 companies before graduation, confident that her academic record and work ethic would speak for themselves. The rejection emails began arriving 2 weeks after commencement. Thank you for your interest in our company. While your qualifications are impressive, we have decided to move forward with other candidates who more closely match our current needs. The language was always similar. Professional. Polite. Final. Maya had grown up in a small town outside Spokane, raised by her mother Elena after her father died in a construction accident when Maya was 16. Elena worked double shifts as a nurse's aide to keep their household afloat, and Maya had learned early that success required not just talent, but relentless persistence. When the first wave of rejections arrived, Maya responded by expanding her search to smaller companies and startups that might be more willing to take a chance on a recent graduate. The second wave of rejections was more difficult to process. These came from companies that Maya hadn't even heard of before she applied, small firms with fewer than 50 employees who claimed they needed someone with more experience. Maya began to understand that the job market had shifted in ways that her university career counselors hadn't prepared her for. Companies that had been hiring aggressively just 2 years earlier were now implementing hiring freezes. Startups that had received significant funding were suddenly laying off employees rather than bringing on new ones. By the 4th month of her job search, Maya's savings account had dropped below $500. She was sharing a cramped apartment with 3 other recent graduates, all of whom were facing similar struggles. Maya watched 2 of her roommates give up and move back home with their parents. The third found work at a restaurant while continuing to apply for tech positions during her breaks. Maya's mother called every Sunday evening, always asking the same question, "Any good news this week, Mija?" Maya had started lying about her prospects, inventing promising leads and potential interviews to avoid hearing the worry in her mother's voice. Elena was already working overtime to cover her own medical bills from a recent surgery, and Maya couldn't bear the thought of adding financial pressure to her mother's situation. The reality was that Maya's job search had become a full-time occupation that generated no income. She spent 8 hours a day researching companies, customizing cover letters, and practicing technical interview questions. She attended networking events where she smiled and made small talk with professionals who collected her business card and never followed up. She completed take-home coding challenges for companies that never provided feedback on her submissions. Maya's confidence, which had sustained her through 4 years of academic challenges, began to erode. She started questioning whether her professors had been too generous in their assessments of her work. She wondered if her small-town background made her seem unsophisticated to hiring managers in Seattle. She considered the possibility that her resume was somehow flawed in ways she couldn't identify. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning in October when Maya received 3 rejection emails within the span of 4 hours. The first was from a company where she had completed 3 rounds of interviews and been told she was a top candidate. The second was from a startup that had invited her to spend an entire day at their office, participating in team meetings and working on a sample project. The third was from a company that had initially contacted her about a position, expressing enthusiasm about her background, only to inform her that they had decided to promote someone internally instead. Maya closed her laptop and walked to the nearest coffee shop, the same chain where she had worked during college. She ordered a small coffee and sat in the corner booth, calculating how long her remaining money would last if she limited herself to 1 meal per day. The arithmetic was depressing. She had perhaps 3 weeks before she would be forced to choose between rent and food. That evening, Maya called her mother and told her the truth about her situation. Elena listened without interruption as Maya explained the extent of her financial struggles and her growing belief that she might need to return home and find work outside her field. Elena was quiet for a long time after Maya finished speaking. "Mija," Elena said finally, "I've been watching you solve problems since you were 7 years old. You figured out how to fix our old computer when I couldn't afford to replace it. You found a way to pay for college when we didn't have money for tuition. You're not someone who gives up when things get difficult. You're someone who finds a different approach." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about her mother's words and about all the conventional approaches she had tried that had led nowhere. She began to consider what a different approach might look like. Instead of applying for advertised positions at companies that clearly weren't hiring, what if she focused on understanding the specific challenges facing businesses that might need her skills? Maya spent the next 3 days researching Seattle's tech landscape with a new perspective. Instead of looking for job postings, she read financial reports, news articles, and industry analyses. She wanted to understand which companies were struggling with technical problems that matched her areas of expertise. She looked for businesses that were successful enough to afford new employees but small enough that a single talented programmer could make a meaningful impact. That's how Maya discovered Sterling Technologies. Jonathan Sterling had been awake since 4:30 in the morning, reviewing financial projections that painted an increasingly troubling picture of his company's future. Sterling Technologies, the software development firm he had built from a one-person operation into a company with 42 employees, was facing the most serious crisis in its 15-year history. The numbers on his computer screen represented more than abstract financial data. They represented the livelihoods of people who had trusted him with their careers and families. The crisis had begun 3 months earlier when Sterling Technologies' largest client, a healthcare consortium representing 60% of their revenue, had abruptly terminated their contract. The consortium cited budget constraints and strategic realignment, but Jonathan suspected the real reason was more troubling. Their former head of development, Marcus Chin, had left Sterling Technologies 6 weeks before the contract termination to start his own company. Marcus had recruited 3 other senior developers to join him, taking with them intimate knowledge of Sterling Technologies' client relationships and technical capabilities. Jonathan had built Sterling Technologies on the principle that talented employees should be treated as partners rather than resources. He offered equity participation, flexible schedules, and profit-sharing arrangements that were generous by industry standards. The company culture emphasized collaboration over competition, and Jonathan had always believed that treating people well would inspire loyalty. Marcus Chen's departure, followed by the loss of their biggest client, had forced Jonathan to question everything he thought he understood about business relationships. The immediate problem was cash flow. Without the healthcare consortium contract, Sterling Technologies was losing approximately $40,000 per month. Jonathan had enough reserves to maintain operations for perhaps 5 more months, but only if no other clients decided to leave. The stress of the situation was affecting his sleep, his appetite, and his ability to concentrate during meetings with potential new clients. Jonathan had grown up in circumstances that made his current financial anxiety feel familiar in uncomfortable ways. His father had died when Jonathan was 14, leaving behind medical bills that consumed his mother's savings and forced the family to sell their house. Jonathan had worked part-time jobs throughout high school and college, always conscious that financial security was temporary and fragile. The success of Sterling Technologies had allowed him to forget that anxiety for several years, but it had never entirely disappeared. Now, at 42, Jonathan found himself experiencing the same stomach-tightening fear he had felt at 18 when he wasn't sure how he would pay for his next semester of college tuition. The difference was that this time, his decisions would affect not just his own future, but the futures of 42 employees who depended on Sterling Technologies for their income and health insurance. Jonathan had spent the previous week in meetings with potential investors who might provide the capital necessary to stabilize the company's finances. The conversations had been humbling. Investors who had shown interest in Sterling Technologies during more prosperous times were now asking pointed questions about client retention, competitive positioning, and management effectiveness. Several had suggested that Jonathan consider selling the company rather than seeking additional funding. The possibility of selling Sterling Technologies was something Jonathan had never seriously considered. The company represented 15 years of 18-hour workdays, countless personal sacrifices, and a vision of how technology companies could operate differently. Jonathan had deliberately kept Sterling Technologies smaller than it could have become, prioritizing employee satisfaction and client relationships over rapid growth and maximum profit. The idea of transferring ownership to investors who might dismantle that culture was deeply troubling. But Jonathan also understood that his personal attachment to the company was less important than his responsibility to his employees. If selling Sterling Technologies was the only way to preserve their jobs, he would have to seriously consider that option. The decision was complicated by the fact that several employees had significant equity stakes in the company. A forced sale at a low valuation would effectively erase years of their financial planning and retirement savings. On the Tuesday morning that would prove to be a turning point for both Jonathan and Maya, Jonathan arrived at his office at 6:15, hoping to complete several hours of work before the day's meetings began. He had scheduled a conference call with the board of directors for 10 o'clock to discuss the company's financial situation and potential strategic options. The board consisted of 3 early investors who had provided funding during Sterling Technologies' startup phase, plus Jonathan himself. Jonathan knew that the board members were growing impatient with what they perceived as his reluctance to make difficult decisions. They had been pushing him to implement layoffs that would reduce monthly expenses and extend the company's operational timeline. Jonathan had resisted, believing that reducing the development team would make it even more difficult to compete for new contracts. But he was beginning to acknowledge that his options were becoming increasingly limited. The phone call with the board was scheduled to last 1 hour. It stretched to 2 hours and 15 minutes, as board members questioned every aspect of Jonathan's leadership and strategic planning. The tone of the conversation grew increasingly contentious, with one board member suggesting that Jonathan's emotional attachment to employees was preventing him from making rational business decisions. By the time the call ended, Jonathan felt emotionally drained and intellectually overwhelmed. He had managed to postpone any final decisions about layoffs for another 2 weeks, but he knew that the board's patience was nearly exhausted. Jonathan looked at his calendar and realized that he had 3 more meetings scheduled for the afternoon, including a presentation to a potential client that could generate significant new revenue if it went well. Instead of preparing for that presentation, Jonathan found himself staring out his office window at the gray Seattle sky, wondering whether he had the energy and capability to guide Sterling Technologies through its current crisis. For the first time since starting the company, Jonathan seriously considered whether his employees might be better served by a different leader. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Jonathan made a decision that surprised even himself. He cancelled his remaining meetings, gathered his coat, and left the office. He needed time to think clearly about the company's future, and that kind of thinking was impossible in an environment where every phone call brought potential bad news. Jonathan walked through downtown Seattle without any particular destination in mind. The physical movement helped clear his head, and after 45 minutes of walking, he felt ready to return to the office and tackle the problems that awaited him there. He was approaching the Sterling Technologies building when he noticed a young woman standing near the executive entrance, apparently waiting for someone. Jonathan had walked past hundreds of people that afternoon without paying particular attention to any of them. But something about this woman's posture caught his eye. She was standing very still, focused entirely on the building entrance, seemingly oblivious to the rain that had been falling for several hours. Her clothes were soaked, but she showed no signs of seeking shelter or leaving her position. Jonathan's first thought was that she might be a job applicant who had gotten confused about interview scheduling. His second thought was that she might be someone with a personal or professional grievance against the company. Jonathan had dealt with both situations before, and his usual approach was to ask building security to handle the matter discreetly. But as Jonathan got closer to the entrance, he realized that the woman wasn't behaving like someone who was lost or angry. She was behaving like someone who was waiting for exactly the right moment to act on a carefully considered plan. Jonathan found himself curious about what that plan might involve. That curiosity, combined with Jonathan's emotionally exhausted state after his difficult day, led him to make a decision that would prove more significant than either he or Maya could have anticipated. Maya had been tracking Jonathan Sterling's daily routine for 3 days, not through any invasive surveillance, but through the kind of careful observation that any determined job seeker might employ. Sterling Technologies building had large windows facing the street, and Maya had learned that Jonathan typically left his office between 5 and 6 in the evening. She had positioned herself where she could see both the main entrance and the executive parking garage, ensuring that she wouldn't miss him regardless of his exit route. What Maya hadn't anticipated was that Jonathan would leave the building at 3:45 on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 hours earlier than his usual schedule. She had been standing in the same spot for nearly 4 hours, declining offers of assistance from building security and ignoring the rain that had steadily intensified throughout the afternoon. Maya's commitment to this approach was absolute. She had calculated that she would have exactly one opportunity to make her case to Jonathan Sterling, and she couldn't afford to miss that opportunity due to poor timing or inadequate preparation. Maya had rehearsed her opening statement dozens of times, refining it based on everything she had learned about Jonathan's background and Sterling Technologies' current situation. She wasn't planning to ask for a job in any conventional sense. Instead, she was planning to present Jonathan with a specific analysis of his company's technical challenges and her proposed solutions to those challenges. Maya had spent 60 hours researching Sterling Technologies' client base, competitive position, and recent project history. She had identified 3 areas where the company's capabilities could be enhanced in ways that would likely generate new business opportunities. Maya's approach was based on a fundamental insight about human psychology that she had developed during her months of unsuccessful job searching. Most people who approached successful business leaders were asking for something: a job, an investment, a partnership, or a favor. Maya had decided to reverse that dynamic by approaching Jonathan with something valuable to offer, rather than something she needed to receive. The challenge was that Maya's analysis and proposals existed only in her mind and in handwritten notes that she carried in a waterproof folder. She had no portfolio of previous work at established companies, no references from industry executives, and no credentials beyond her recent college degree. Maya's credibility would have to be established entirely through the quality of her insights and the persuasiveness of her presentation. When Maya saw Jonathan Sterling emerge from the building at 3:45, she immediately recognized him from the photographs she had studied online. Jonathan was taller than she had expected, probably 6 feet 2 inches, with dark hair that showed gray at the temples. He was wearing a dark blue suit that looked expensive, but his posture suggested someone who was carrying significant stress. Jonathan was walking quickly, as if he had somewhere important to be, but his expression was distant and preoccupied. Maya realized that she had perhaps 30 seconds to position herself in Jonathan's path before he reached his car or turned in a direction that would make approaching him awkward. She stepped away from the building wall where she had been standing and moved toward the sidewalk, timing her movement so that she would intersect with Jonathan's trajectory without appearing to chase or follow him. "Mr. Sterling," Maya said as Jonathan approached her position. Her voice was clear and confident, despite the fact that her heart was beating faster than it had ever beaten before. "My name is Maya Rodriguez, and I believe I can solve the mobile platform integration problems that are preventing Sterling Technologies from competing effectively for enterprise contracts." Jonathan stopped walking and looked at Maya with an expression that suggested surprise rather than irritation. Most people who approached him on the street wanted to discuss investment opportunities or business partnerships in vague, theoretical terms. Maya had opened with a specific technical reference that indicated she understood something concrete about his company's current challenges. "I'm sorry," Jonathan said, "but I don't think we've met before. How do you know about our mobile platform situation?" Maya had anticipated this question and had prepared an answer that would demonstrate her research capabilities without revealing that she had spent days analyzing Sterling Technologies from the outside. "I've been following your company's public statements and client testimonials for the past several months. Based on the pattern of contracts you've won and lost, it appears that your competitors have advantages in mobile integration that are causing potential clients to choose alternative providers." Jonathan's expression shifted from surprise to curiosity. Maya's assessment was accurate, and it wasn't information that would be obvious to someone with only casual knowledge of Sterling Technologies' business. The mobile platform integration challenges Maya had mentioned were indeed a significant factor in several recent contract losses, but Jonathan hadn't realized that this pattern was visible to outside observers. "That's a fairly sophisticated analysis," Jonathan said. "What's your background in enterprise software development?" This was the question Maya had been dreading, because it forced her to acknowledge the weakness in her credentials while still maintaining credibility for her insights. "I recently graduated from Washington State University with a computer science degree. I don't have professional experience at other software companies, but I've spent considerable time studying the technical and business challenges facing mid-sized development firms like Sterling Technologies." Maya paused, then continued with the statement she had rehearsed most carefully. "Mr. Sterling, I know you don't have any reason to trust my analysis based on my resume alone. But I also know that Sterling Technologies is facing some difficult decisions about its future direction. If you're willing to give me 15 minutes of your time, I can show you specifically how mobile platform integration improvements could help you win back the healthcare consortium contract and compete more effectively for similar enterprise accounts." Jonathan was quiet for several seconds, during which Maya began to worry that her approach had been too aggressive or presumptuous. She was soaked from the rain, standing on a public sidewalk, asking one of Seattle's most successful entrepreneurs to spend time listening to ideas from someone he had never heard of before. Maya recognized that the entire situation probably appeared absurd from Jonathan's perspective. But Jonathan was thinking about something other than the apparent absurdity of Maya's request. He was thinking about the board meeting he had endured that morning, and about the investors who had questioned his ability to lead Sterling Technologies through its current crisis. He was thinking about the 3 meetings he had canceled that afternoon because he felt too overwhelmed to participate in them productively. And he was thinking about Maya's confident assertion that she could help solve problems that his experienced development team had been struggling with for months. Jonathan made a decision that surprised himself as much as it surprised Maya. "There's a coffee shop 2 blocks from here," Jonathan said. "If you're serious about this conversation, meet me there in 10 minutes. I'll give you 15 minutes to explain what you have in mind." Maya felt a surge of adrenaline that was stronger than anything she had experienced during her months of job searching. She had successfully initiated the conversation she had been planning for weeks, but she also realized that the most challenging part of her presentation was still ahead of her. Maya had 15 minutes to convince Jonathan Sterling that a recent college graduate with no professional experience could contribute meaningfully to solving his company's most pressing technical and business challenges. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling," Maya said. "I'll see you there in 10 minutes. As Jonathan walked away, Maya remained standing on the sidewalk for another 30 seconds, processing what had just happened. She had successfully approached one of Seattle's most prominent technology executives and secured a meeting based on nothing more than her research and her willingness to take an unconventional risk. Maya felt simultaneously elated and terrified as she realized that everything she had been working toward for the past 3 months now depended on a 15-minute conversation with someone who had the power to change her life completely. Maya gathered her waterproof folder and began walking toward the coffee shop, mentally reviewing the presentation she was about to deliver. She had one opportunity to prove that her insights were valuable enough to justify Jonathan's continued attention, and she intended to make the most of that opportunity. The coffee shop Jonathan had specified was a small independent establishment called Grind Coffee, located in the ground floor of an older office building 2 blocks from Sterling Technologies. Maya arrived first and selected a table near the back of the shop, positioning herself so that she could see the entrance while arranging her materials in a way that would allow for an organized presentation. She ordered a small coffee that she couldn't afford, reasoning that 15 minutes of conversation with Jonathan Sterling was worth significantly more than the $4.50 the coffee cost. Maya used the 8 minutes before Jonathan's arrival to review her handwritten notes one final time and to organize them in the sequence she planned to present them. Her materials consisted of 3 main components: an analysis of Sterling Technologies' competitive position, a technical proposal for mobile platform integration improvements, and a business case explaining how those improvements could generate new revenue opportunities. Maya had written everything by hand because she couldn't afford to print documents at a copy shop, but she had been careful to ensure that her handwriting was legible and her charts were professionally formatted. When Jonathan entered the coffee shop, Maya was struck by how different he appeared in the casual environment compared to the formal business setting where she had approached him. Jonathan looked more relaxed, but also more tired than he had seemed on the street. He ordered a large coffee at the counter, then joined Maya at her table. "Before we begin," Jonathan said, "I want to be clear about what this conversation can and cannot accomplish. I'm interested in hearing your ideas, but Sterling Technologies isn't currently hiring new employees. Our budget situation doesn't allow for expansion of the development team, regardless of how talented potential new team members might be." Maya had anticipated that Jonathan would begin by managing her expectations about employment opportunities, and she had prepared a response that would redirect the conversation toward value creation rather than job seeking. "I understand that hiring new employees isn't feasible in your current situation, Mr. Sterling. I'm not here to ask for a traditional job offer. I'm here to propose a specific way that I can help Sterling Technologies increase its revenue and competitive position, with compensation tied directly to the results I produce." Jonathan's expression suggested that Maya's response had captured his attention in a way he hadn't expected. Most job seekers who approached him wanted salary and benefits regardless of their contribution to company performance. Maya was proposing a performance-based arrangement that would align her interests with Sterling Technologies' success. "What kind of results are you talking about?" Jonathan asked, "and how would you measure them?" Maya opened her waterproof folder and withdrew the first set of her handwritten notes. "Based on my research, Sterling Technologies has lost at least 3 major contracts in the past 8 months because potential clients chose competitors who offered superior mobile platform integration. The healthcare consortium that terminated their contract with you cited limited mobile accessibility as one of their primary concerns." Jonathan nodded, acknowledging the accuracy of Maya's assessment. The mobile platform limitations Maya had identified were indeed a significant factor in Sterling Technologies' recent business challenges, but Jonathan was surprised that this information was apparent to someone outside the company. Maya continued, "I've analyzed the technical specifications that your competitors are offering, and I believe I can develop mobile integration capabilities that would not only match their offerings, but exceed them in ways that would give Sterling Technologies a significant competitive advantage." "That's a substantial technical undertaking," Jonathan said. "What makes you confident that you can accomplish something that our current development team hasn't been able to achieve?" This was the question Maya had been most concerned about, because it required her to critique the work of experienced professionals while positioning herself as someone who could succeed where they had not. Maya had spent considerable time developing an answer that would be honest without being disrespectful. "Your current development team is exceptionally skilled at creating desktop and web-based applications," Maya said. "But mobile platform integration requires a different set of technical approaches, particularly when dealing with enterprise-level security and data management requirements. I've studied this specific area extensively, and I believe I can bring a fresh perspective to challenges that your team has been approaching from their existing expertise base. Maya withdrew a second set of notes from her folder. I've identified 3 specific technical improvements that would address the mobile integration concerns raised by the healthcare consortium and similar enterprise clients. The first involves implementing cross-platform data synchronization that maintains security protocols while allowing real-time access from mobile devices. The second involves developing user interface designs that are optimized for mobile interaction without sacrificing functionality. The third involves creating automated testing protocols that ensure mobile applications perform consistently across different device types and operating systems. Jonathan studied Maya's handwritten technical specifications, impressed by the level of detail and the sophistication of her proposed solutions. Maya's approach addressed problems that Sterling Technologies' development team had been struggling with, and her suggestions included specific implementation strategies that demonstrated genuine technical understanding. "This is solid work," Jonathan said. "How long would it take you to implement these solutions, and what kind of resources would you need?" Maya had spent hours calculating realistic timelines for her proposed technical improvements, taking into account the complexity of enterprise-level software development and the need for thorough testing before deployment. "I estimate that I could complete the core development work in 6 to 8 weeks, working full-time with access to your existing codebase and development tools. The testing and refinement phase would require an additional 2 to 3 weeks. And what kind of compensation arrangement did you have in mind?" Maya withdrew the third set of notes from her folder. "I'm proposing a results-based compensation structure. You would provide me with access to your development environment and cover basic expenses like software licenses and hardware upgrades. In return, I would work without salary for the first 8 weeks while developing the mobile integration improvements. If my work enables Sterling Technologies to win new contracts or regain lost clients, I would receive compensation equivalent to 15% of the additional revenue generated, paid over the first year of those new contracts." Jonathan was quiet for several minutes as he considered Maya's proposal. The arrangement she had suggested would involve minimal upfront investment from Sterling Technologies, while potentially generating significant returns if her technical improvements proved effective. Jonathan also recognized that Maya's willingness to work without guaranteed compensation demonstrated confidence in her abilities and commitment to producing results. But Jonathan was also aware that Maya's proposal involved considerable risks for her personally. If her technical improvements didn't lead to new business opportunities, she would have spent months working without compensation. Jonathan wondered whether Maya fully understood the financial risks she was proposing to accept. "Maya," Jonathan said, "I appreciate the thought and research that you've put into this proposal. Your technical analysis is impressive, and your business case is well-reasoned. But I want to make sure you understand what you're suggesting. If I accept your proposal and your improvements don't generate new contracts, you would have worked for months without earning anything. Are you prepared for that possibility?" Maya had considered this risk extensively, and she had concluded that the potential benefits of her proposed arrangement outweighed the dangers of continuing her unsuccessful conventional job search. "Mr. Sterling, I've been looking for work in my field for 6 months without success. I have $47 in my bank account and no other immediate prospects. The conventional approaches to finding employment haven't worked for me, so I'm willing to try an unconventional approach that offers the possibility of significant rewards if I can deliver results." Maya paused, then continued with a statement that revealed something essential about her character and motivations. "I also believe that Sterling Technologies represents the kind of company I want to work for long-term. I've researched your approach to employee relations and business ethics, and I'm impressed by the culture you've created. I'm not just proposing a short-term project arrangement. I'm hoping to prove that I can contribute to Sterling Technologies' success in ways that would justify a permanent position once your financial situation improves." Jonathan realized that Maya's proposal represented more than a business transaction. She was offering to invest her time and skills in Sterling Technologies' future success, with compensation tied directly to the value she created. Jonathan had built his company on the principle that employees should be treated as partners rather than resources, and Maya was proposing exactly that kind of partnership relationship. Jonathan made a decision that would prove to be one of the most important choices of his professional career. "Maya," Jonathan said, "I'm willing to give your proposal a try. But I want to modify your suggested timeline slightly. Instead of 8 weeks without compensation, I'd like to see what you can accomplish in 4 weeks. If your work shows genuine progress towards solving our mobile integration challenges, we can discuss extending the arrangement and formalizing the compensation structure you've proposed." Maya felt a surge of excitement and relief that was stronger than any emotion she had experienced in months. She had successfully convinced Jonathan Sterling to give her an opportunity to prove her capabilities, despite her lack of conventional credentials or professional experience. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling," Maya said. "I won't disappoint you." "Call me Jonathan," he replied. "And I'm looking forward to seeing what you can accomplish." As they prepared to leave the coffee shop, Jonathan realized that his conversation with Maya had been the most optimistic and energizing business discussion he had experienced in months. Maya's enthusiasm and confidence had reminded him of his own feelings when he first started Sterling Technologies, and her technical insights had given him hope that the company's current challenges might be surmountable. Neither Jonathan nor Maya could have anticipated how dramatically their professional relationship would evolve over the following weeks, or how Maya's unconventional approach to career development would ultimately benefit not just herself, but dozens of other people who would never know her name. Maya arrived at Sterling Technologies at 7:30 on Monday morning, 45 minutes before the official start of the business day. She had spent the weekend preparing for her first day by reviewing every technical document about mobile platform integration that she could access through online resources and university databases. Maya understood that her success during the next 4 weeks would depend entirely on her ability to deliver meaningful results quickly, and she intended to maximize every available hour of work time. Jonathan had arranged for Maya to have temporary access to a small office that had been vacated when Sterling Technologies reduced its administrative staff 2 months earlier. The office contained a desk, a chair, and a computer workstation with access to the company's development environment. Maya had also been provided with temporary security credentials that would allow her to access the building during standard business hours. Maya's first task was to familiarize herself with Sterling Technologies' existing codebase and development protocols. She had requested access to the source code for the company's 3 most recent client projects, including the healthcare consortium system that had been terminated. Maya planned to spend her first week analyzing the technical architecture of these systems to understand exactly why mobile integration had been problematic and how those problems could be resolved. The process of reviewing thousands of lines of existing code was methodical and time-consuming, but Maya approached it with the systematic attention to detail that had earned her academic recognition in college. She created detailed notes about each system structure, identifying patterns in how data was processed, stored, and transmitted. Maya also documented every instance where mobile device compatibility had been considered during the original development process, and every instance where it had been overlooked. By the end of her first day, Maya had completed her analysis of the healthcare consortium system and had identified 7 specific areas where mobile integration failures had compromised system performance. More importantly, Maya had developed preliminary solutions for 5 of those 7 problems, based on her understanding of cross-platform development techniques that weren't being utilized in Sterling Technologies' existing code. Maya worked until 8:30 that evening, long after most Sterling Technologies employees had left for the day. She wanted to establish a pattern of exceptional commitment that would demonstrate her seriousness about the project, but she also found herself genuinely excited about the technical challenges she was tackling. Maya hadn't felt this level of intellectual engagement since her most demanding college courses, and she realized how much she had missed working on complex programming problems. Jonathan stopped by Maya's office at 8:15, ostensibly to check on her progress but also to observe how she was adapting to the Sterling Technologies work environment. Jonathan found Maya completely absorbed in her analysis, surrounded by handwritten notes and technical diagrams that covered every available surface of her desk. "How was your first day?" Jonathan asked. Maya looked up from her computer screen, surprised to realize how late it had become. "It was exactly what I was hoping for," she said. "Your existing systems are more sophisticated than I expected, which makes the mobile integration problems more interesting to solve. I think I understand why previous attempts at mobile compatibility haven't been successful, and I have some ideas about approaches that might work better." Jonathan was impressed by Maya's enthusiasm, but he was also concerned about the pace she was setting for herself. "Maya, I appreciate your dedication, but I don't want you to burn yourself out during your first week. This is a marathon, not a sprint." "I understand," Maya said, "but I also know that I have a limited amount of time to prove that I can contribute meaningfully to Sterling Technologies' success. I want to make the most of that time." Jonathan recognized something familiar in Maya's intensity and work ethic. Her approach reminded him of his own behavior during the early years of Sterling Technologies, when he had worked 18-hour days because he believed that extraordinary effort was necessary to achieve extraordinary results. "Just remember that solving complex technical problems requires mental clarity as well as determination," Jonathan said. "Make sure you're getting enough sleep and taking care of yourself." Maya appreciated Jonathan's concern, but she was also aware that her situation was different from that of a typical employee. Maya was working without compensation and without job security, depending entirely on her ability to produce results that would justify Jonathan's continued confidence in her capabilities. Maya couldn't afford to approach this opportunity with anything less than complete commitment. Over the following 3 days, Maya established a routine that allowed her to maximize her productivity while maintaining the mental clarity that Jonathan had emphasized. She arrived at the office at 7:30 each morning and worked until 8 or 8:30 each evening, with a 1-hour break for lunch that she used to walk around downtown Seattle and organize her thoughts about the technical challenges she was addressing. Maya's progress during her first week exceeded her own expectations. By Friday afternoon, she had completed her analysis of all 3 client systems that Jonathan had requested her to review, and she had developed detailed technical specifications for mobile integration improvements that would address the problems she had identified. More significantly, Maya had begun implementing the first phase of her proposed solutions, creating prototype mobile interfaces that demonstrated how Sterling Technologies' existing systems could be enhanced to support real-time access from smartphones and tablets. Maya's prototype demonstrations were scheduled for the following Monday morning, when she would present her findings to Jonathan and potentially to other members of the Sterling Technologies development team. Maya spent her weekend refining her presentation materials and testing her mobile interfaces on multiple device types to ensure they would perform reliably during the demonstration. The weekend also gave Maya time to reflect on how dramatically her situation had changed in just 1 week. 7 days earlier, she had been standing in the rain outside Sterling Technologies with $47 in her bank account and no clear path forward. Now she was working on challenging technical problems that utilized her skills and education, collaborating with a company that shared her values about ethical business practices, and developing solutions that could potentially generate significant revenue for Sterling Technologies while establishing her own career in the software development industry. Maya understood that her current position remained precarious. She was still working without compensation, and her continued employment depended entirely on her ability to produce results that justified Jonathan's investment in her potential. But for the first time in months, Maya felt optimistic about her professional future and confident in her ability to achieve her goals through focused effort and creative problem-solving. Monday morning arrived with Maya feeling simultaneously prepared and nervous about her presentation to Jonathan and the Sterling Technologies development team. She had spent the previous evening rehearsing her technical demonstration multiple times, ensuring that her mobile interfaces would function smoothly and that her explanations would be clear and compelling. Maya understood that this presentation represented her most important opportunity to prove that her unconventional approach to joining Sterling Technologies could produce meaningful results. Jonathan had arranged for the presentation to take place in Sterling Technologies' main conference room, with attendance from the 4 senior developers who remained on the team after Marcus Chen's departure. Maya would have preferred to present her findings to Jonathan privately, but she recognized that gaining acceptance from the existing development team would be essential for the long-term success of her mobile integration improvements. The conference room was equipped with a large display screen and presentation technology that Maya had never used before. She arrived 30 minutes early to familiarize herself with the equipment and to ensure that her demonstration materials would display properly. Maya had prepared a formal presentation using software available on her assigned computer, but she had also brought her handwritten notes and technical diagrams as backup materials in case of technical difficulties. Jonathan entered the conference room at exactly 9 o'clock, followed by the 4 senior developers: Sarah Kim, David Chen, Jennifer Walsh, and Michael Torres. Maya had met each of them briefly during her first week at Sterling Technologies, but this would be her first opportunity to present her work to them as a group. Maya has been working on mobile platform integration improvements for Sterling Technologies' existing client systems, Jonathan explained to the team. She's going to show us what she's accomplished during her first week, and we're going to discuss how her approach might address some of the technical challenges we've been facing. Maya began her presentation by acknowledging the sophistication of Sterling Technologies' existing systems and the expertise of the development team that had created them. She wanted to establish that her proposed improvements were intended to build upon their excellent work rather than replace it. Maya then presented her analysis of the specific technical factors that had made mobile integration problematic for Sterling Technologies clients. The primary issue isn't with the fundamental architecture of our systems, Maya explained. The problem is that mobile integration was treated as an additional feature rather than as a core requirement during the original development process. This resulted in systems that function excellently in desktop and web environments but encounter performance and usability problems when accessed through mobile devices. Maya's analysis was thorough and accurate, but she could see that some of the senior developers were skeptical about her conclusions. David Chen, who had worked on the healthcare consortium system, appeared particularly unconvinced by Maya's assessment. "I spent 6 months working on mobile compatibility for the healthcare consortium," David said. "The technical challenges you're describing aren't as straightforward to solve as you're suggesting. We tried multiple approaches to mobile integration, and none of them provided the performance levels that enterprise clients require." Maya had anticipated this response and had prepared a detailed explanation of how her proposed solutions differed from previous approaches. "You're absolutely right that mobile integration for enterprise systems is technically complex," Maya said. "But I believe the previous attempts encountered problems because they were trying to adapt existing desktop interfaces for mobile use, rather than creating mobile-specific interfaces that communicate with the same underlying data systems." Maya then demonstrated her prototype mobile interfaces, showing how they could access and manipulate the same data as the desktop versions while providing user experiences that were optimized for mobile devices. Her demonstrations included real-time data synchronization, secure authentication protocols, and performance benchmarks that showed response times comparable to desktop applications. The reaction from the development team was immediate and positive. Sarah Kim, who had been working on user interface design for Sterling Technologies web applications, was particularly impressed by Maya's mobile interface concepts. "This is exactly the kind of approach we needed," Sarah said. "Maya's interfaces solve the usability problems we've been struggling with, and they do it without compromising system security or performance." Jennifer Walsh, who specialized in database management and server architecture, was equally enthusiastic about Maya's technical solutions. "The data synchronization protocols Maya has developed are more sophisticated than anything we've implemented before. These could significantly improve system performance for all our clients, not just those who need mobile access." Michael Torres, who had been responsible for system testing and quality assurance, asked detailed questions about Maya's automated testing procedures and was impressed by the thoroughness of her approach to ensuring cross-platform compatibility. Even David Chen, who had initially been skeptical, acknowledged that Maya's solutions addressed technical problems that the team had been unable to solve using their previous approaches. "I have to admit that Maya's methods are more effective than what we tried with the healthcare consortium," David said. "If we had implemented these solutions 8 months ago, we might not have lost that contract." Jonathan watched the interaction between Maya and his development team with growing excitement. Maya's technical competence was obvious, but equally important was her ability to collaborate effectively with experienced professionals who might have been threatened by her unconventional background. Maya had presented her work in a way that acknowledged the team's expertise while demonstrating how her contributions could enhance their collective capabilities. "Maya," Jonathan said, "your presentation has exceeded my expectations. Your technical solutions are impressive, and your approach to working with the existing team is exactly what Sterling Technologies needs. I'd like to discuss extending your arrangement beyond the original 4-week timeline we agreed upon." Maya felt a surge of relief and excitement that was even stronger than what she had experienced when Jonathan first agreed to give her an opportunity. She had successfully proven that her unconventional approach to career development could produce results that benefited both herself and Sterling Technologies. "I would be very interested in discussing a longer-term arrangement," Maya said. "I believe there are additional opportunities to enhance Sterling Technologies' competitive position through mobile platform improvements, and I'm excited about the possibility of continuing to work with this team." Jonathan smiled, recognizing that Maya's success represented more than just a solution to Sterling Technologies' technical challenges. Maya had demonstrated that talented individuals could contribute meaningfully to business success regardless of their conventional credentials, and that unconventional approaches to hiring and compensation could benefit both employers and employees. "Let's schedule a meeting for later this week to discuss the details of a longer-term arrangement," Jonathan said. "I think we're going to have a very productive working relationship." As the presentation concluded and the development team returned to their regular work, Maya remained in the conference room to organize her materials and process what had just happened. She had successfully transitioned from standing in the rain outside Sterling Technologies to becoming a valued member of their development team, and she had done it through a combination of thorough preparation, creative problem-solving, and willingness to take risks that most people would have considered unreasonable. Maya realized that her success represented more than just personal achievement. She had proven that determination and capability could overcome conventional barriers to career advancement, and that businesses could benefit significantly from recognizing talent in unconventional forms. Maya's story was becoming an example of how individuals and organizations could achieve extraordinary results by approaching challenges with creativity, persistence, and mutual respect. 3 weeks into Maya's extended arrangement with Sterling Technologies, she made a discovery that would prove more significant than anyone could have anticipated. Maya had been granted access to Sterling Technologies' complete client database as part of her work on mobile integration improvements, and she had been systematically reviewing client communication records to understand how mobile platform limitations had affected customer satisfaction and retention. Maya's analysis revealed patterns in client feedback that suggested Sterling Technologies' business challenges were more complex than the mobile integration problems she had been hired to solve. Several clients had expressed concerns about data security protocols, system reliability during peak usage periods, and integration capabilities with third-party software systems that were commonly used in enterprise environments. More troubling was Maya's discovery that many of these technical concerns had been reported to Sterling Technologies' support team multiple times over the past year, but the company's response had been inconsistent and incomplete. Maya found documentation of client complaints that had been logged but never addressed, technical problems that had been acknowledged but never resolved, and communication gaps that had left clients feeling frustrated and undervalued. Maya's most significant discovery came when she was reviewing the communication records for the healthcare consortium contract that Sterling Technologies had lost 3 months earlier. The consortium had indeed cited limited mobile accessibility as a primary concern, but Maya found evidence that their decision to terminate the contract had been influenced by several other factors that had never been adequately addressed. The healthcare consortium had reported system performance problems during peak usage periods, difficulties integrating Sterling Technologies software with their existing medical record systems, and concerns about data backup and recovery procedures. Maya found records of multiple communications from the consortium requesting technical support for these issues, but the responses from Sterling Technologies had been delayed, incomplete, or ineffective. Maya realized that Marcus Chen's departure from Sterling Technologies had created more than just a staffing shortage. Marcus had been responsible for managing client relationships and coordinating technical support responses, and his departure had left a gap in the company's ability to address client concerns promptly and effectively. The loss of the healthcare consortium contract hadn't been caused primarily by mobile integration problems. It had been caused by a breakdown in customer service and technical support that had made the consortium lose confidence in Sterling Technologies' ability to meet their needs. Maya's discovery had immediate implications for Sterling Technologies' business strategy. If the company could improve its customer service and technical support capabilities, it might be possible to regain lost clients and prevent the loss of existing contracts. Maya also realized that the mobile integration improvements she had been developing could be more valuable than she had initially understood, because they would address not just technical limitations but also customer service challenges that were affecting client satisfaction. Maya spent several days analyzing the full scope of Sterling Technologies' customer service and technical support challenges, documenting specific instances where client concerns had been inadequately addressed and identifying patterns in the types of problems that were most frequently reported. Maya's analysis revealed that Sterling Technologies had the technical capability to solve most of the problems their clients were experiencing, but they lacked the organizational systems and processes necessary to respond to client concerns quickly and effectively. Maya realized that her findings represented both a significant opportunity and a considerable risk for Sterling Technologies. If the company could implement improved customer service and technical support processes, they could potentially regain lost clients and strengthen relationships with existing customers. But if these organizational problems weren't addressed, Sterling Technologies would likely continue to lose clients regardless of how effective their technical solutions might be. Maya decided to present her findings to Jonathan, even though doing so would require her to critique aspects of Sterling Technologies' business operations that weren't directly related to her mobile integration project. Maya understood that raising these concerns might be viewed as overstepping her role as a temporary contractor, but she also believed that Jonathan deserved to know about problems that were affecting his company's success. Maya requested a private meeting with Jonathan to discuss her findings. She had prepared a comprehensive analysis of Sterling Technologies' customer service challenges, including specific recommendations for organizational improvements that could address the problems she had identified. Maya understood that her willingness to present this analysis would demonstrate her commitment to Sterling Technologies' success, but it would also test Jonathan's receptiveness to feedback about aspects of his company that he might not have realized were problematic. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon in Jonathan's office. Maya arrived with detailed documentation of her findings and a carefully prepared presentation that would explain the significance of her discoveries without overwhelming Jonathan with technical details. Maya knew that this conversation could determine whether her role at Sterling Technologies would expand beyond mobile integration work, and whether Jonathan would view her as someone who could contribute to solving the company's broader business challenges. "Jonathan," Maya began, "I've discovered some information during my client database analysis that I believe is important for you to know about. The mobile integration problems we've been working on are significant, but they're not the only factors that have been affecting client satisfaction and retention." Maya then presented her analysis of Sterling Technologies' customer service and technical support challenges, showing Jonathan specific examples of client concerns that had been inadequately addressed and explaining how these problems had contributed to the loss of the healthcare consortium contract and other business relationships. Jonathan listened to Maya's presentation with growing concern and interest. He had been aware that Sterling Technologies was facing customer service challenges, but he hadn't realized the extent of the problems or their impact on client relationships. Maya's analysis revealed organizational weaknesses that Jonathan had been too focused on financial and technical issues to recognize. "Maya," Jonathan said, "this is extremely valuable information. I knew that Marcus Chen's departure had created staffing challenges, but I didn't understand how significantly it had affected our customer service capabilities. Your analysis explains several client relationships that I couldn't understand why we were losing." Jonathan paused, then continued with a statement that surprised Maya. "I'm impressed that you took the initiative to investigate these issues, even though they weren't part of your original project scope. This kind of comprehensive thinking about business challenges is exactly what Sterling Technologies needs right now." Maya felt encouraged by Jonathan's response, but she also recognized that identifying problems was only the first step towards solving them. "I've developed some recommendations for addressing these customer service challenges," Maya said. "But implementing these changes would require organizational restructuring that goes beyond what I can accomplish as an individual contributor." "What kind of organizational changes are you thinking about?" Jonathan asked. Maya presented her recommendations for improving Sterling Technologies' customer service and technical support capabilities, including proposals for dedicated customer service personnel, improved communication protocols, and systematic processes for tracking and resolving client concerns. Maya's recommendations were detailed and practical, but they would require significant investment in personnel and organizational systems. Jonathan realized that Maya's recommendations addressed fundamental business challenges that Sterling Technologies needed to solve in order to achieve long-term success. The mobile integration improvements Maya had developed were valuable, but they wouldn't be sufficient to restore Sterling Technologies' competitive position if the company continued to lose clients due to inadequate customer service. "Maya," Jonathan said. "Your analysis and recommendations are exactly what Sterling Technologies needs. I'd like to discuss expanding your role beyond mobile integration work to include responsibility for implementing the customer service improvements you've identified." Maya felt a sense of excitement and apprehension as she realized that Jonathan was offering her an opportunity to take on significantly expanded responsibilities within Sterling Technologies. The position he was describing would involve managing organizational change and personnel decisions that would affect the entire company's success. "I would be very interested in taking on that expanded role," Maya said. "But I want to make sure you understand that I don't have previous experience managing customer service operations or implementing organizational changes of this scope." Jonathan smiled, recognizing the parallel between Maya's current situation and the circumstances that had led to her initial opportunity at Sterling Technologies. "Maya, 3 weeks ago you convinced me to give you an opportunity to solve technical problems despite your lack of conventional experience. Your work since then has proven that capability and dedication can overcome limitations in formal credentials. I believe you can succeed at managing organizational improvements for the same reasons you succeeded at mobile integration development." Maya realized that Jonathan was offering her an opportunity to prove herself in an entirely new area of business operations, with the potential for even greater impact on Sterling Technologies' success. The position would involve challenges that were different from the technical problems she had been solving, but it would also provide opportunities for professional growth and career advancement that exceeded anything she had imagined when she first approached Jonathan outside the Sterling Technologies building. "I accept your offer," Maya said. "I'm ready to take on the challenge of improving Sterling Technologies' customer service and technical support capabilities." Jonathan extended his hand to Maya, and they shook hands to formalize their expanded working relationship. "Welcome to Sterling Technologies' management team," Jonathan said. "I think you're going to accomplish remarkable things here." As Maya left Jonathan's office that afternoon, she reflected on how dramatically her professional situation had changed in less than a month. She had successfully transitioned from unemployed college graduate to essential member of Sterling Technologies' leadership team, and she had done it by approaching career challenges with creativity, persistence, and willingness to take calculated risks. Maya understood that her expanded role would involve new challenges and responsibilities that would test her capabilities in ways she hadn't experienced before. But she also knew that her success at Sterling Technologies had been built on her ability to identify problems, develop practical solutions, and implement changes that produced measurable results. Maya was confident that she could apply the same approach to organizational management that had made her successful at technical development. Maya's story was becoming more than just an example of unconventional career development. It was becoming a demonstration of how individuals could create opportunities for themselves and others by approaching business challenges with fresh perspectives and innovative solutions. Maya's success at Sterling Technologies would ultimately benefit not just herself and Jonathan, but the entire Sterling Technologies team and the clients they served. Maya's transition from mobile integration developer to customer service manager required her to learn an entirely new set of skills while maintaining her existing technical responsibilities. Jonathan had agreed to hire 2 additional customer service representatives to support Maya's new role, but the hiring process would take several weeks, and Sterling Technologies' client relationships couldn't wait for new personnel to be recruited and trained. Maya's first priority was to address the most urgent customer service issues that her analysis had identified. She had found 14 client concerns that had been reported but never resolved, ranging from minor technical glitches to significant system performance problems. Maya created a prioritized list of these issues, focusing first on problems that were affecting Sterling Technologies' largest and most important clients. Maya's approach to customer service management was influenced by her technical background and her systematic approach to problem solving. She developed tracking systems that ensured client concerns were logged, assigned, and resolved within specific time frames. Maya also implemented communication protocols that kept clients informed about the status of their requests and provided regular updates on progress toward resolution. The most challenging aspect of Maya's new role was managing the existing Sterling Technologies development team, who were now expected to respond to customer service requests in addition to their regular project work. Maya understood that asking developers to take on customer service responsibilities could be frustrating, particularly when those responsibilities interrupted their focus on technical projects. Maya addressed this challenge by creating a rotation system that distributed customer service responsibilities among team members while ensuring that each developer's primary project work remained protected. Maya also implemented protocols that allowed developers to escalate complex customer service issues to her for resolution, reducing the burden on team members who preferred to focus on technical work. Maya's systematic approach to customer service management produced immediate results. Within 2 weeks, Sterling Technologies had resolved all 14 of the outstanding client concerns that Maya had identified, and the company had implemented processes that ensured new client requests would be addressed promptly and effectively. Maya also began reaching out to former clients who had terminated their contracts, offering to address the technical concerns that had contributed to their decisions to leave Sterling Technologies. The response from former clients was more positive than Maya had expected. Several clients expressed willingness to reconsider their relationships with Sterling Technologies if the company could demonstrate that their technical and service concerns had been addressed. Maya worked with the development team to prepare demonstrations showing how Sterling Technologies' capabilities had improved, and she scheduled presentations with 3 former clients who had indicated interest in potentially renewing their contracts. The first client presentation was scheduled with the healthcare consortium that had terminated their contract 3 months earlier. Maya had spent considerable time preparing for this presentation, because she understood that successfully regaining the healthcare consortium would significantly improve Sterling Technologies' financial position and demonstrate that the company's organizational improvements were producing meaningful results. Maya's presentation to the healthcare consortium focused on the specific technical improvements that Sterling Technologies had implemented since the termination of their contract. Maya demonstrated the mobile integration capabilities she had developed, showed how system performance had been enhanced, and explained the new customer service processes that would ensure prompt response to technical concerns. The healthcare consortium's response was cautiously optimistic. They acknowledged that Sterling Technologies had addressed the technical limitations that had contributed to their decision to terminate the contract, and they expressed appreciation for the improved customer service protocols that Maya had implemented. However, the consortium's representatives also indicated that they would need to see evidence of sustained improvement before they would be willing to renew their contract. Maya proposed a 3-month trial period during which Sterling Technologies would provide technical support services to the healthcare consortium at a reduced rate, allowing both organizations to evaluate whether the relationship could be successfully renewed. The consortium agreed to this arrangement, recognizing that it would allow them to assess Sterling Technologies' improved capabilities without making a long-term commitment. The trial period with the healthcare consortium began 2 weeks later, providing Maya with an opportunity to demonstrate Sterling Technologies' enhanced technical and customer service capabilities in a real-world environment. Maya understood that the success of this trial period would determine not just whether Sterling Technologies could regain their largest former client, but whether Maya's approach to organizational improvement could produce sustained business results. Maya's responsibilities during the trial period included managing all communication with the healthcare consortium, coordinating technical support responses, and ensuring that any problems were resolved quickly and effectively. Maya also worked closely with the Sterling Technologies development team to ensure that the consortium's technical requirements were understood and addressed appropriately. The trial period proceeded smoothly, with Maya's systematic approach to customer service management preventing the communication breakdowns and delayed responses that had characterized Sterling Technologies' previous relationship with the healthcare consortium. Maya's mobile integration improvements also proved effective in addressing the technical limitations that had been a primary concern for the consortium. 6 weeks into the trial period, the healthcare consortium's technical director contacted Maya to express satisfaction with Sterling Technologies' improved performance and to discuss the possibility of renewing their contract on a permanent basis. The consortium was particularly impressed by Maya's responsiveness to their technical concerns and by the quality of the mobile integration capabilities that she had developed. Maya scheduled a meeting with the healthcare consortium's decision-makers to present a proposal for renewing their contract with Sterling Technologies. Maya's proposal included competitive pricing, enhanced service guarantees, and commitments to continued technical improvements that would ensure the consortium's evolving needs would be met effectively. The healthcare consortium accepted Maya's proposal, agreeing to renew their contract with Sterling Technologies for a 2-year period. The renewed contract represented 60% of Sterling Technologies' previous revenue, and it provided the financial stability that Jonathan needed to expand the company's operations and hire additional personnel. Maya's success in regaining the healthcare consortium contract demonstrated that her organizational improvements had produced measurable business results that justified Jonathan's investment in her expanded role. Maya had proven that her unconventional background and systematic approach to problem-solving could be applied successfully to customer service management and business development, not just technical development. Jonathan recognized that Maya's contributions to Sterling Technologies extended far beyond the mobile integration work she had originally been hired to perform. Maya had identified and addressed organizational weaknesses that Jonathan hadn't recognized, developed customer service capabilities that significantly improved client relationships, and successfully regained the company's most important contract through effective business development. Jonathan decided that Maya's role at Sterling Technologies should be formalized with a permanent position that reflected her contributions to the company's success. Jonathan also wanted to ensure that Maya's compensation reflected the value she had created for Sterling Technologies through her technical and organizational improvements. Jonathan scheduled a meeting with Maya to discuss her permanent employment status and to present her with a compensation package that would acknowledge her essential role in Sterling Technologies' recovery and future success. Jonathan was prepared to offer Maya a senior management position with equity participation and a salary that reflected her contributions to the company's improved financial position. Maya's journey from unemployed college graduate to senior manager at Sterling Technologies had taken less than 3 months, but it had involved challenges and achievements that typically require years of professional experience to accomplish. Maya had demonstrated that unconventional approaches to career development could produce extraordinary results when combined with exceptional dedication, systematic problem-solving, and willingness to take calculated risks. Maya's story was also becoming an inspiration for other people who were facing similar career challenges. Jonathan had begun sharing Maya's approach with other business leaders in Seattle's technology community, and several companies had implemented similar programs that provided opportunities for talented individuals who might not meet conventional hiring criteria. Maya's success at Sterling Technologies represented more than just personal achievement. It had become a demonstration of how businesses and individuals could benefit from approaches to employment and career development that prioritized capability and results over formal credentials and conventional experience. 6 months after Maya had first approached Jonathan Sterling outside the Sterling Technologies building, the company was experiencing the most successful period in its 15-year history. The healthcare consortium contract that Maya had successfully renewed had been supplemented by 3 additional major contracts with enterprise clients who had been attracted by Sterling Technologies' enhanced mobile integration capabilities and reputation for exceptional customer service. Maya's role at Sterling Technologies had evolved to encompass responsibilities that extended far beyond her original mobile integration project. She had been promoted to Director of Client Relations and Technical Innovation, with oversight of customer service operations, business development activities, and strategic technology planning. Maya's compensation package included equity participation that made her a partial owner of Sterling Technologies, with financial returns tied directly to the company's continued success. Maya's success had also created opportunities for other people who were facing similar career challenges. Jonathan had been so impressed by Maya's unconventional approach to demonstrating her capabilities that he had implemented a formal program allowing qualified candidates to propose project-based arrangements similar to Maya's original agreement. The program, which Maya had named the Capability Demonstration Initiative, had resulted in the hiring of 6 additional employees over the past 4 months. The Capability Demonstration Initiative had attracted attention from other technology companies in Seattle, several of which had implemented similar programs based on Maya's model. The initiative had also been featured in business publications and career development websites as an innovative approach to addressing the gap between talented job seekers and employers who were struggling to identify candidates with the right combination of skills and commitment. Maya had been invited to speak at several professional conferences about her experience with unconventional career development and the business benefits of performance-based hiring practices. Maya's presentations focused on the practical steps that both job seekers and employers could take to create opportunities for demonstrating capability rather than relying exclusively on formal credentials and traditional interview processes. Maya's personal financial situation had been transformed completely. She had been able to pay off her student loans, provide financial support for her mother's medical expenses, and begin saving for long-term goals that had seemed impossible just months earlier. Maya had also been able to move from her shared apartment to a one-bedroom apartment closer to Sterling Technologies' offices, reducing her commute time and providing her with a more comfortable living environment. But Maya's most significant achievement was the recognition that her approach to career development had created value not just for herself, but for Sterling Technologies, its clients, and other job seekers who had benefited from the Capability Demonstration Initiative. Maya had proven that innovative approaches to business challenges could produce benefits that extended far beyond their immediate objectives. Maya's relationship with Jonathan had evolved from employer-employee to business partnership based on mutual respect and shared commitment to Sterling Technologies' success. Jonathan had begun involving Maya in strategic planning discussions and major business decisions, recognizing that her perspectives and problem-solving abilities were essential for the company's continued growth. Maya had also developed strong working relationships with Sterling Technologies' development team, who had initially been skeptical of her unconventional background but had come to appreciate her technical contributions and management capabilities. Maya's approach to leadership emphasized collaboration and shared success rather than hierarchical authority, and she had been able to maintain the collegial atmosphere that was central to Sterling Technologies' company culture. Maya's mother Elena had visited Seattle to see Maya's new apartment and to meet Jonathan and the Sterling Technologies team. Elena was amazed by the transformation in Maya's professional situation and proud of her daughter's achievements, but she was most impressed by Maya's continued commitment to helping other people who were facing similar challenges. Maya had begun mentoring other young professionals who were struggling with job searches, sharing the strategies and insights that had led to her success at Sterling Technologies. Maya's mentoring activities were informal and voluntary, but they had already helped several people secure employment opportunities that might not have been available through conventional job search approaches. Maya's story had also attracted attention from university career counseling departments, several of which had invited her to speak with students about unconventional approaches to career development. Maya's presentations to college students emphasized the importance of thorough research, creative problem-solving, and willingness to take calculated risks in pursuit of career goals. Maya understood that her success at Sterling Technologies represented a combination of preparation, opportunity, and favorable circumstances that might not be replicable in exactly the same way for other people. But Maya also believed that the fundamental principles underlying her approach, identifying problems that needed solutions, developing specific proposals for addressing those problems, and demonstrating commitment through performance rather than promises, could be applied successfully in many different situations. Maya's experience had taught her that unconventional approaches to career development required exceptional preparation and willingness to accept significant risks, but they could also produce opportunities that were unavailable through traditional job search methods. Maya's success had been built on her ability to identify a business need that matched her capabilities and to present solutions that created value for both herself and her employer. Maya's story was continuing to evolve as Sterling Technologies expanded its operations and Maya took on new responsibilities for strategic planning and business development. Maya had proven that her systematic approach to problem-solving and her commitment to producing measurable results could be applied successfully to increasingly complex business challenges. Maya's future at Sterling Technologies was bright, but she was also aware that her most important achievement was the demonstration that talented individuals could create opportunities for themselves and others by approaching career challenges with creativity, persistence, and focus on value creation. Maya's story had become an inspiration for people who were willing to think differently about career development and business relationships. Maya's journey from standing in the rain outside Sterling Technologies to becoming a senior executive at the company had taken less than a year, but it had involved personal and professional growth that typically requires much longer to achieve. Maya's story represented the possibilities that could emerge when individuals and organizations were willing to experiment with innovative approaches to business challenges and employment relationships. Maya's success had created a ripple effect that extended far beyond her own career achievement, demonstrating that unconventional approaches to business problems could produce benefits for everyone involved. Maya's story had become a testament to the power of preparation, persistence, and willingness to take calculated risks in pursuit of meaningful goals. 2 years after Maya Rodriguez had made the decision to approach Jonathan Sterling outside the Sterling Technologies building, she stood before an audience of 300 business leaders at the Seattle Technology Innovation Conference, preparing to deliver the keynote address about unconventional paths to career success. Maya was now Vice President of Strategic Development at Sterling Technologies, a company that had grown from 42 employees to over 100 during her tenure. Maya's presentation would focus on the lessons she had learned about creating opportunities through systematic problem-solving and performance-based demonstrations of capability. But Maya also planned to discuss the broader implications of her experience for how businesses and individuals could approach employment relationships and career development in ways that benefited everyone involved. 2 years ago, Maya began, I was standing in the rain outside a building in downtown Seattle with $47 in my bank account and a decision to make. I could continue applying for jobs through conventional channels that had already rejected me dozens of times, or I could try an approach that had never been attempted before and would probably fail. I chose the approach that would probably fail, and that decision changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. Maya's audience included CEOs, hiring managers, and career development professionals who were interested in learning about innovative approaches to talent acquisition and employee development. Many of them were facing similar challenges in identifying and attracting talented employees in competitive job markets. Maya explained how her research-based approach to understanding Sterling Technologies' business challenges had enabled her to propose specific solutions rather than generic qualifications. Maya emphasized that her success had been built on her ability to identify problems that needed solving and to develop practical proposals for addressing those problems effectively. The key insight that made my approach successful, Maya said, was recognizing that job seekers and employers both benefit when employment relationships are based on value creation rather than credential evaluation. When I approached Jonathan Sterling, I wasn't asking him to hire me based on my resume. I was offering to solve specific problems that were affecting his company's success. Maya described how her initial 4-week project had evolved into permanent employment and increasing responsibilities as she continued to identify opportunities for improving Sterling Technologies' operations and competitive position. Maya's story demonstrated how performance-based employment arrangements could create benefits for both employers and employees while reducing the risks associated with traditional hiring processes. Maya also discussed the capability demonstration initiative that Sterling Technologies had implemented based on her model, and how similar programs had been adopted by other companies throughout the Seattle technology community. Maya's approach had created employment opportunities for dozens of people who might not have been hired through conventional channels, while providing participating companies with access to talented individuals who could contribute meaningfully to their success. The most important lesson from my experience, Maya said, is that unconventional approaches to career development require exceptional preparation and willingness to accept significant risks, but they can also produce opportunities that are unavailable through traditional methods. The key is to focus on creating value for others, rather than just seeking benefits for yourself. Maya's presentation concluded with specific recommendations for job seekers who were considering unconventional approaches to career development, and for employers who were interested in implementing performance-based hiring programs. Maya emphasized that successful unconventional career development required systematic research, creative problem-solving, and commitment to producing measurable results. The response to Maya's presentation was overwhelmingly positive, with audience members expressing appreciation for her practical insights and her willingness to share strategies that had proven effective in her own career development. Several attendees approached Maya after her presentation to discuss implementing similar programs at their own companies. Maya's keynote address was later published as an article in Harvard Business Review, reaching an audience of hundreds of thousands of business professionals worldwide. Maya's article generated significant discussion about alternative approaches to hiring and career development, with many companies reporting successful implementations of programs based on Maya's model. Maya's influence on employment practices extended beyond the technology industry. Her approach had been adapted for use in healthcare, education, consulting, and other professional fields where traditional hiring methods had been inadequate for identifying and attracting talented candidates. Maya's story had become a case study in business schools and career development programs throughout the United States. Maya's personal success at Sterling Technologies had continued to grow along with the company's expansion. Maya had been instrumental in securing major contracts with Fortune 500 companies, developing innovative software solutions that had become industry standards, and establishing Sterling Technologies as a leader in mobile platform integration and customer service excellence. Maya's financial success had enabled her to establish a scholarship program for first-generation college students pursuing degrees in technology fields. Maya's scholarship program provided not just financial support, but also mentoring and career development assistance based on the strategies that had led to her own success. Maya's scholarship recipients had achieved remarkable success in their own careers, with several implementing unconventional approaches to career development that had produced results similar to Maya's experience. Maya's relationship with Jonathan Sterling had evolved into a true business partnership, with both of them recognizing that their collaboration had created value that neither could have achieved independently. Jonathan had credited Maya with saving Sterling Technologies from potential bankruptcy and transforming it into one of Seattle's most successful technology companies. Maya's mother Elena had been able to retire from her nursing aide position and move to Seattle to be closer to Maya. Elena was proud of her daughter's achievements, but she was most impressed by Maya's continued commitment to helping other people who were facing similar challenges. Maya's story had become an inspiration for people throughout the world who were struggling with career challenges and looking for alternative